just trying to close in on the flankers first.
This FlyQuest doing their best to just hide in hell off of what they had, and
trying to hop on. He's good for the first one. Alexis popping off, and Alexis! FlyQuest are doing the damn thing.
Now you have a stun you have to deal with too. Managing to dodge that has to take a fight. Snaps, oh, it's Aria with it. Loaded again. Lace has to do it on their own, and Lace saves the day for FlyQuest.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Valorant North American Game Changers, the first day of the Swiss stage and the first step to see if anyone can take down Shopify Rebellion Gold for champions most recently. On my whole shift with me, I've got Ash, and whoa, we spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours sitting in the green room talking through what we were ready for, and I will say we are here for all of the new action, all the new names, and all the new squads that are going to be joining us here this stage. How you doing, Ash?
I'm doing great. I'm stoked. And I love that you shouted out that, we're going to get to see SRG back in action here for Game Changers. They were missing during that kickoff stage because that was the first team to make history within Valorant to actually make it over to that Challengers League. Unfortunately, they did not carry over into stage 2. But as we take a look at all of the teams that are going to be joining us here for the Swiss stage, I feel like there are some notable shout outs here as well, Shift, because you think about, okay, they made that history, but there have also been players from Game Changers stepping up within the Valorant Challengers League. You even have players such as Nora, who I believe is on TV, and then, YFPX, and she's also actually in Challengers League this stage right now on Prosperity Esports. So it's really cool to see all of these players taking the opportunities that they've had in Game Changers throughout the years to level up to make it to that next stage.
It's really fun, and kind of speaking to this from a muse of different games, different titles, it's been really awesome in the last calendar year seeing how the different arms of competitive Valorant have started to intertwine. We've seen it with Valorant Challengers, including teams from the collegiate space, and like you mentioned most recently, including full teams from the Game Changer space. So I'm really pumped to see what we have in store here for this particular stage. Those first 4 names that you see in the top left, though, Shopify, FlyQuest, Aussie and Friends, and YFP, those were the first 4 teams to qualify through Open Qualifiers number 1, and they did so pretty darn seamlessly. But that told every single squad who fought their way through definitely had worked their way in through what was largely a couple of tough bracket moments throughout the Open Qualifier. So now we find ourselves in where we are now, which is the Swiss portion of what I'm considering to be kind of the main group stage to what we have for this opening season of Valorant Game Changers. And here is kind of how the Swiss stage works. If you're unfamiliar with it, it'll be kind of open seeds based on how the teams had qualified. So your first team to qualify, if you want to call it that, in Shopify Rebellion Gold, will be playing up against Catnappers. It kind of goes down the seeding way like that. The big story, though, is as you find wins or losses, you will then be matched up with teams who have the same record. The overall story point, though, you want to get to 4 wins before you get to 4 losses. That will advance you into the next stage here at Game Changers.
Yeah, that's the big show, right? The 4 wins versus the 4 losses, which equals elimination there. And because it's only 8 teams, half of these teams will be culled by the end of the Swiss stage, and only half will move on into our playoff double elimination bracket. It will be best of 3s throughout the entirety of Swiss, of course. And we got to keep in mind what the schedule is like here as well. I think what's kind of fun about this Swiss stage here for stage 1 is that it's on a week-by-week rolling schedule. So there is actually a lot more time between these matches for these teams to look back on mistakes that they might need to correct, fix things up before they head into their next matchup.
Absolutely. And I will say, just kind of reflecting as we've had the same format in certain regards in the challenger space, we've seen the teams that have qualified first, sometimes very quickly, then have a long period off where they get to playoffs and they crumble. So there will be a necessity to improve and keep being diligent throughout the entirety of this Swiss stage. But But let's get into the nitty-gritty and talk about today, and in particular, our first block of matches. As we kind of alluded towards earlier, Shopify Rebellion Gold, often touted as your number one seed, if you want to call it that, definitely a favorite, will be squaring off against Catnappers. But you can kind of see all the matchups that you have here and which platform and which medium you can find the matches on. I know when we were doing the open qualifiers, it was a lot of just clean observer feeds. 3 out of the 4 of those will be the same. Of course, if you're here watching on Valorant Americas, you're already looking at it. We're going to get Hakikimori GC playing up against TV for our opening game. Excited to see this one because just based on how the teams came into this particular main Swiss stage, they had very similar paths, so this should feel, I think, very competitive between these two squads to start things off.
Oh, for sure. I think that is one of the more competitive matches that we're looking at for today. I think also, I believe it was Fisher Fumblers versus Catface should be another pretty close matchup that we're looking for as well. So I'm super stoked to see what we have in store, but we also got to consider what we're actually going to be looking at on the main stage here on the mainstream, because to start off our day, we are going to be taking that look at the Hakikimori versus TV matchup. And this is also a close one, I think, when we're looking at the head-to-head between these two teams.
I absolutely agree with you. I think just kind of watching and looking over how they got to their qualification spot. Again, this Hakikimori's team was originally known as Shrimp Gaming. They fell in open bracket round 2 of their qualifiers, but then fell down and beat Prosperity X very cleanly 2-0. So now you're in a position to where you kind of reset. You take what you learned from that. I have to imagine for a lot of these teams, it was probably like a first go as you jumped into that opening qualifier number 1. So taking a look at the roster, we're going to be looking at Angel, CIA, Arthur, Airy, and Colby, seeing what they could do under the new brand, again, of the Hakikimori GC. Any thoughts just kind of looking at this roster of 5 in terms of like maybe who you show some favor towards? I know Angel's got a pretty long competitive history.
Yeah, Angel has been around the team for a while. I think I just want to even talk about this roster as a whole. You look back to when they were playing under the name of Shrimp Gaming. This is a team that managed to make themselves known in the top 8 of the kickoff earlier this season, all the way back in like January, February at the beginning of this year. So they made it up to playoffs previously. That core being, I believe that was Angel, CIA, like you were mentioning, Airy as well, and then their sub Terror, who was previously on the main line, now a sub, and then they have Arthur and then Colby coming in here to round out the rest of this team. I think that you look at just the fact that they've had those results, there are some expectations now on their shoulders to, at minimum, make it to playoffs again.
Yeah, I like that call. And again, there's going to be, I think, a level here in this opening week of kind of creating an eye test. I was going to say, we don't even have like a litmus for what these teams were able to accomplish outside of maybe a couple of viewpoints when they were going through their open qualifiers, but that feels like a while ago. And I think there's also a level of being able to take the same roster, or maybe a couple of changes here and there, into this stage with a little bit more sincerity, a little bit more concentration. Now knowing that, like, okay, we survived through the qualifiers, we are able to get in. Now we got to start really building towards a potential playoff spot, potential run to, again, try to meet up to where the bar is set, which is as high as it possibly could be when you talk about who the reigning champions are in the North American game changer scene, let alone the world scene at that point was Shopify Rebellion. It often feels like when we get to these opening moments, we're focused on 2, maybe 3 squads. It's always Shopify, it's always FlyQuest, and then that third spot's been up for grabs. YFP, I think, looking strong for it, but we'll see. But I think the basis is, with a wide berth of teams that we have through qualifications, the matchup that we're looking at is how do they play versus what we expect to see from teams like Shopify and FlyQuest.
Yeah, that's a big shout, right? But we got to focus back in on who that Hakikimori squad is going to be looking to play against today. And looking over at TV here, I think we see, some names that have been familiar to us for a while. There's Irene, there's Leah, but then the big one, I think that most people will have their eyes on, and I'm sure any of her fans who are in chat looking to watch her compete today, is going to be Kaede stepping into the fray. She has leveled up her gameplay, I feel like, since the very beginning of seeing her start streaming Valorant and whatnot, and then making her debut previously within the competitive scene and carrying forward with that. It's I think a lot of pressure almost, because you do have the fans looking to support in a very positive manner, of course.
Sure.
And they're looking to make waves here in Swiss stage.
Yeah, and just to kind of speak to it, just to touch, these 5 did not play in the opening qualifier. At least they didn't make it to the top 16, as far as I was able to tell. But when they did qualify through the second open qualifier, it was kind of mixy. 2 different game 3s. They did make it through the upper bracket, but 2 different game 3s. I think there was an overtime in there as well in their qualification match. So it's not as convincing as maybe the names would make you believe. I just think it's one of those situations, like, again, based on how the Swiss initial round is seeded, they're coming in as a lower quote-unquote seed than maybe they actually are. And I think that's the biggest thing, because names on paper-wise, there is a lot of power built into this roster.
There definitely is. I think that's the other thing to keep in mind is I think something that's actually parallel between both TV and Hakikimori is that during both open and closed qualifiers to actually get into the Swiss stage, both these squads have had moments where they have had to sub in here and there, and that also changes things up, right? You're not able to consistently play within those officials with your main lineup. You make some of those adjustments. I don't know if it's necessarily because, maybe somebody was busy, or if it's a situation where I think even within the same series, we saw Kaide and Sal sub in and out, so it could also be like a map comfort thing coming in for these teams here as well.
And that's another part of the picture. When it comes down to building the roster, that's just step number 1. Then it's trying to figure out where your strengths, your weaknesses are, not just in overall agent composition, but mostly in what you have in the map pool, which is going to be, I think, again, one of those things that as this Swiss stage starts to move, it'll be really interesting to see if teams are going to be able to get by having kind of a bread and butter. That's often kind of been the case when it talks about teams that have found upset potential. It's by way of really just getting the maps that they like, and maybe a little bit covertly. So let's take a look to see what we have for this series. Again, best of 3 here to kick us off in our Swiss stage. This opening matchup, a pivotal one. Starting off 1-0 gives you a lot of breathing room. And, well, how about it? We're going to go straight into one of the tried and true maps in the pool. We're going to start with Ascent, with Lotus, and then Haven as our decider if we get all the way to 3. Any thoughts just kind of looking at the bans versus the picks? I know our sample size of results is essentially 0, but anything that kind of stands out to you here, Ash?
Honestly, I feel like these 2 teams share a very similar map pool. They both have strengths on Haven. They both, I believe, also have actually no, it's more leaning towards Hakikimori on the side of Lotus. And then for Ascent, I think that's where some more of my questions lie, because Ascent wasn't in the map pool during kickoff, I believe. So for Shrimp, or Hakikimori, that is, this is something that they haven't really been seen on, right? So TV can't really go and look back and see, okay, are Hakikimori the type to lean into that bread and butter Ascent, like the old stale Ascent composition, or are we going to see them shaking things up? We've seen that the meta has been shifting here on Ascent, and at least for the side of TV, they do actually seem to be leaning into the idea of that meta change and experimenting a little bit more, not really going for that Sova KO composition that Ascent was so well known for before the map changes came through.
Yeah, and a couple of, I think, buffs and nerfs since that point as well that has modified the meta, which was so stapled for so long. I'm also going to be, I think, just interested to see how the teams handle Lotus. I feel like Lotus is one of those maps that really does show the strength of initiation that teams are able to kind of build off of, just due to the nature of how the map is laid out. We've often seen, I think, teams early on in either VCT, or I think mostly in things like Challengers or VCL, where you've got the collegiate space for Valorant coming through. It's like teams that just can commit off of initiation utility can do really, really well on that map. So it'd be interesting to see if that does end up kind of being the case. Let's just take a moment here to kind of, again, lay the ground out a little bit, because you look at a team like Shopify Rebellion, like you mentioned, not a part of kickoff. They're in Challengers. They, kind of break ground in a lot of ways when it comes down to being, our first real true Game Changers roster to be able to qualify for Challengers. Didn't necessarily hang to the level that I think a lot of people were hoping, just kind of being a fan of the story, but still a lot to be learned, I think, about that experience. We talk about that with teams like Winthrop, for instance, when it comes down to the collegiate space, their ability to turn what they learn at that level into success where they're kind of born and bred at, in that instance, the collegiate space. Do you look to kind of see the same things from a Shopify in this stage of Game Changers? If you're a team like TV or Hakikimori, do you look to that in Challengers and say, okay, this is the standard that we have to play at? Because yeah, they weren't there at kickoff, and that was a good couple of months ago. So there's a lot, I think, to be learned about how do you actually set yourself up for expectation going into this long Swiss stage.
I think that's a really good question. I feel like the approach can be different depending on the team, because if we're going to be honest, within Game Changers, a lot of it does come down to that passion for competition to play. And there are teams that obviously do want to, play at the highest level possible. They're looking to try and like push their limits, break new ground, break through those ceilings. But there are also some like more puggy teams. We do have like a lot of Game Changers that do love to play here just for like the love of the game in itself, and that doesn't mean that they're not putting their best foot forward, but it's a different mentality, and that can really shift like team to team. I feel like it really depends on which players you end up talking to when it comes down to that. Sure. And it's been a bit of a tough spot, I think, as well. Like for Game Changers teams, they don't always have the most consistent opportunity to play. There haven't been as many third-party events going on, not as many opportunities to compete period in general for the scene for Valorant, so it can be a little bit harder to get those reps in to even try to reach those new heights. But with that passion and with that love, I think there is that expectation that these Game Changers players do want to reach that level. They are going to be inspired. I know that so many of them do watch Challengers, they do watch VCT, and they have their favorite teams. They have goals that they're looking to hit, and this is the testing ground. You do a little bit of that experimentation, you try things out in OQ, try to make it to close qualifiers, and then the Swiss stage, at least early on, that's where you really start to test your mettle up against teams who are a little bit closer, because I feel like the gap in competition for this league can be pretty big when you look at the high highs and the lows.
Absolutely. I will say, just to kind of wrap that as we're getting our cinematic fly through here, so yes, friends, the game is nearly ready to go, but the ability to see staff and coaches come in at all levels, I think has been also really fun to see. So here we go, our first look at our agent select for Ascent. You talked about, again, kind of that KO meta that we came to see. Waylay, of course, being felt very instantly upon its inclusion inside of the agent pool. Going to be picked up for TV. We're on the other side. If it's a Valorant map, the ability to drop into Taeho is probably pretty high. So you're going to get Taeho. Breach is the combination there for Hakikimori. Any thoughts, just kind of looking at what are some really dramatic differences between both these two teams compositionally?
Yeah, I think you look at TV and it's kind of like that, typical Ascent composition, aside from the fact that we're throwing the Waylay in instead of that Jet that we used to see before the changes to our Ascent were made, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how Colby is able to make space for this squad, and more importantly, I think how this rest of TV is going to be able to follow Colby up on those entries when they are being that tip of the spear, because I feel like that is some of the struggle. We've seen very mixed results with Waylays on Ascent at all levels of Valorant, within Valorant competitive. And then you look at Hakikimori, I think the big thing is Ennui is going to have util on util to help them get set up to get onto those sites, and I think that's the other thing to keep in mind. A lot of trap plays there for Hakikimori on the defense, even looking for early control of those mains to help set Ennui up on those deep angles. Yeah,
whereas the other side of things, if you've seen Waylay play, it's going to be very much so the definition and literal definition of flash and dash, most likely, with the combination of the KO and Omen. So interesting, I think, to kind of see how those things go. And I think in particular, you look at both these compositions, and I think both of us, just from a viewpoint, maybe almost immediately look at it from the attacking perspective, but I'll be interested to see, will there be aggression in trap play form for Hakikimori, or are they going to try to play a little bit more reactionary and a little bit more retake heavy off of what Kaidi could find on of course, the Cypher? So lots of question marks here as we're trying to, again, figure out what the dynamic between these teams are going to look like after really only seeing observer-only feeds of what they were able to do in the open qualifiers. So lots of questions, hopefully lots of answers here on a map that, again, feels very normal, feels very basic in terms of what is going to lead towards success for both these two teams, no matter what side of the spike you're on.
Oh, absolutely. Also, just to give you guys just a little bit of a shout, I know that we were saying, you know, Hakikimori on defense first, TV on the attacking side, but just the titles are just swapped up over there with the names and the players, just to make it clear for everybody at home. Because I was going to say, like, wait a second, you know, that's a really huge difference, actually. I was like, okay, wait, actually, Hakikimori aren't even playing, you know, the composition that they had played last. Or sorry, TV are not. I'm even mixing myself up.
I was gonna say, it's not confusing at all.
We're doing great. We are doing great. It is all good. But I am really excited, I think, for this first map. I think, honestly, the big thing that I have in mind right now is I think that this first one on Ascent is really important for TV to take, because I'm looking at the results that Hakikimori have had on Lotus, and I think if they take Ascent, honestly, Lotus should be a pretty clean map from them. They're very strong on both sides versus a TV who has a very comfortable attacking side. That is pretty typical for most teams on Lotus, but they really struggle on the defense, which would be their second half. And I think it could be difficult for them to close it out in that regard. So I think for TV to try and take this to a third map or have their best chance at taking it the series period, it's important for them to have a strong showing here on Ascent.
Good call. I love it. I love it. We're just waiting for the game to start here, friends, and hopefully we'll be in no time. I know we're all excited to get things going, and we're all excited to see who may be early favorites for this Swiss stage. And there we go. We're ready to go. We've got TV going up against Hakikimori, and the countdown is about ready to get us going, as TV will be on the defense again. Our mistake, kind of framing up those agent compositional things, but we'll see what we get here as this pistol round is now underway, which means it's our first moments of Valorant Game Changers North America in the 2025 year. Let's get it on.
Already super early mid control, you know, tier 4 Hakikimori. And they've already got this trap play set up here as well. You can see Irene playing so deep in spawn. It's ready for stun off contact.
Nice. Really well done. No chance for Colby whatsoever. Angel stuck into a bit of a corner. Fine, though, with the spike for now, but that loss of first blood makes things very difficult, especially if you're going to try to approach this B break. Inui will kind of just toss a little shoulder. That fragment actually doesn't get where it was intended to go. So the ability to try to break down a play at market is pretty much gone, as now you take your focus back over to the A zone. Arthur, we're going to just destroy this trap wire and get to work playing through tree.
A little shock for a bit of damage. Mizu's super low here, and you've got a response. Okay, wait, hold on. Illegal moments happening in the server right now, Shiv.
Well, the take on the site looking decent. Trying to hold on is Leah from back on the inside. Salvo at the ready. Kaidi up top, able to find one. That's actually through the main side of this play, and the follow-up is there, leaving it out to just a 1v1. The Salvo being pushed out. Leah on the corner, has Angel in front, but the shots just aren't quite there. Angel will take 3, and Hakikimori will find the opening round.
Man, that was quite the pivot there in mid. You know, they break up that trap play. They see, okay, there's quite a lot of presence over towards market. A quick pivot over towards cat, and to take that tree control. That's kind of crazy how lucky Arthur got, honestly, with those 2 picks through the smoke. But a great effort from TTV to even try to grasp that round back, to be honest.
Yeah, very dicey to be sure, especially after the first blood was as convincing as you'd like for the defensive perspective. But as we jump into round number 2, Guardian, Vandal, and a couple of Stingers will make its way into the pockets of Hakikimori, whereas for TV, it'll just be a couple of Sheriff upgrades and a little bit of opening aggression. Just trying to see things as Mizu over towards the front side at A main. Does catch a bit of intel, but not much to make of it as we stay 5v5.
Yeah, just a slower round this time. I think the expectation for Hakikimori right now is with the amount of utility that TTV do have to set up. I think they were expecting maybe some sort of eco-aggression to come through. Bit of a set play. That's why you see them playing at that slower pace. You can already see that gamble over towards A, right? Allowed by the tripwires that we have set up here by Kaide on the B site and towards mid.
A little bit of an island play. Kaide will read some level of aggression, and Colby will get to work trying to break down the site. There's the dash in. And a lot of space going to be taken. The door shut over towards market. It's going to force a lot of this retake attempt for TV to have to come to the defensive spawn, and Colby is already there.
Ooh.
Retracts back, and that'll be enough to get the spike down with the 5v5 post plant.
Only 5 health, though. Colby's got to play a little bit safer now. Posting up towards logs. Nice crossfire being set up for this front site flood.
Door at mid will break. Keep your eye on the minimap as Inui is trying to play over towards B main. Timing of this is going to be everything. And Angel finds the first contact, and wow, clean shot for first blood. And now this hit for TV. It may just be completely paused out. That paranoia doesn't really do what's intended to. Not able to find one through market, but Colby just lighting them up. Finds 3, and Hakikimori very clean in their follow-up round off the eco.
Nicely done here by Hakikimori. I think the crossfires were great. TTV, I mean, not too much you can do in that situation, right? This is where we're going to look at them to have a bit more of that success with the buy coming in. But it's been interesting to see. This is where I'm going to have more of my eyes, I think, on those trap plays, some of those ideas that we kind of got previews of during that pistol round with those mid lines that we saw Irene holding with the fault line. Maybe a similar idea, I think, right now off the contact, maybe, of Mizu over towards A main, playing the one-way. Just that passive positioning there by the breach. Sun to buy a little bit of time, just so they can ensure that suppression will fade.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here, if you're TV, is you just don't want anything to flood at you. So you spend the breach fault line just to try to put a bit of a pause over towards anything at A main, but patience has come through here for Hakikimori. Fragment into the smoke just to make sure no one's on the elbow here at Catwalk. Some expensive utility being sent out here for Hakikimori. Now an Aldrone late to scout out what's happening over at Market. This is just a fake, though. If you can catch intel, that'd be great, but there's going to be intent towards trying to break through A based on the setup that we're looking at.
That's the thing. Playing so far back. I do like that we're going for a bit of information searching, putting a bit of pressure on that flank. That's a green light for Hakikimori to group up towards the safe side. They know that they've lost control of the other side of the map.
Paranoia trying to slow things down at A main. Mizu just tucked into the corner, and we go over the top. Wow, clean opening double. The play through glass is also pushed aside, so Hakikimori on site, but without any level of comfort. Erie provides something to work with, but nothing further than just the opening elimination as Mizu and Nui just do it all themselves. A little essential 2v5 moment for them on the A site.
Great hold there by Mizu. We saw that paranoia coming out, the contact from that flood that they were attempting on the side of Hakikimori over towards A main, just buying enough time for those few players on the team, being Henri and Irene, to actually get that rotation to assist on that A site. Now for Hakikimori. Got a judge in hand here for Colby. This is one of those rounds where you're expecting them to go in a lot faster, you know, have a heavier hand in that tempo.
Yep, and that's exactly the case. There's the double dash. Colby trying to chase it down the fault line there. And
stop.
Just tickling at that range with the judge, so he has to refract back. Takes a lot of damage, but an orb is collected, and you still have a null command at the ready for Angel, as well as Hakikimori is going to transition over to the B side of the map.
How many times? This is like the second time now that we've seen Colby just like run in, somehow get out with like just over 5 health left, and then be able to regroup with the team. I mean, it's good pressure that they're able to apply. You know, it's lucky that they're not being punished any further than that additional damage, and that shock dart not actually being able to find any of the trips here over towards B, and Kaide playing on the complete opposite site. So if that suppression manages to find her, they actually might get the wrong idea of where that Cypher setup is.
This is really, yeah, we're going to fake null command. I was about to say, the orb collected by Arthur and the rotation back over to A, after that little push through with the refract back, Hakikimori seemed to think that we could still just run on into A, and that fake will do what it's intended to. TV have rotated nearly in full to B. They get, of course, the read that is just the fake, and the spam for Kaide will work out for first blood, but will not stop this spike plant initially, but all of the extra utility will. Salvo connects, and now it's a 5v2.
I think that's something we talked about, you know, the setup potential, right? The trap plays, but that post-plant, or that plant denial as well, is massive on side of TTV, forcing Hakikimori into a save situation. And it was a great call from TTV. You know, they had the expectation that North Command would come online. They had Kaide set up on the other side of the map, just to guarantee that, you know, her setup would be alive if it was wherever Hakikimori were looking to hit, even though it ended up being a fake situation. But nice to see the calls being made here on the defense right now.
And I love just coming out and throwing a curveball to the first batter, right? Like, Hakikimori gets 2 ults, and we're sitting there saying, first major gun round for us. Let's just throw something crazy in the mix. So kind of building a little bit of conditioning here, or at least showing the depth of the playbook. Doesn't fully work out, of course. Big shouts to Kaidi for willing to hold on to that A site, essentially on her own. And how about this? TV looking to show a little bit of aggression here. You know, is very aware that this could be a possibility, sneaks away, keeps their lives. And then while this is happening, some vulnerability is starting to occur at mid-map.
This angle might be good, though. Oh, Colby. The smoke to go out. I'm actually going to allow it. This is dangerous. I don't know how I feel about this. Angel's just walking up, breaking the door. Lucky enough that, honestly, nobody is around mid here for the side of TTV. Playing very passive. Instead, for that site control, happy to give mid up. That spike in hand there as well. I'm looking to group, but so much information. TTV has done really good with their scouting outside of B.
They're just going to allow themselves to be hit by the stealth drone there. And that will push the defense out. And whoa, Airy just pops up. Uses a little bait and switch. Old-fashioned tactics works out for the double. Follow-up, though, for Nui. Decent. Keeps things level. 3v2 situation, though. The defense going to have to regroup here with the last 2 members trying to play from the A side of the map.
The door broken. Colby stuck in this angle by themselves, but TTV not looking to actually group up into this retake. They're looking for a split approach here.
Oh, decent opportunity from Irene. Paranoia coming through. Colby is completely stuck. Great isolation. Now to the 2v2. Problem is, you've used all of your tools to break through, but Angel on the corner with the Sheriff able to provide for 1, leaving it now to the 1v1 between Mizu and Airy.
Cover going out.
Late dart cover for Mizu, trying to swing on into the site, but instead it's Airy finding their 4th elimination, and a lot of the credit not just on being able to hold, but most importantly, opening up B main with 2.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? We saw the idea, though. Hakikimori, they were looking for that B crunch play. Either way, they were on an island when it came down to Leah and Kaide over towards B main. But that was a huge cleanup, considering the fact that their lurker initially fell on the side of Hakikimori, really being able to bring that one back. But again, I think the ebb and flow has been nice to see between both of these teams. Hakikimori have been very measured with their approach on the attack side.
Well, nothing measured about this from Inui, and well, that trap play does not fully work out, at least not through mid. Everything else working out pretty decently, though, over towards B main. You're going to get the ult for Colby. Refracts back, not looking at the look of it. Hunter's Fury behind this for Arthur. Tags, but does not find any eliminations. And oddly enough, TV are holding their ground in front of B main. Bold to put it plainly, but they could afford the luxury of doing this with the triple stack. They also find the long-range shots onto the Sova, leaving it just down to Airy once again, this time a 1v4.
Yeah, and it's Kaide again ratting on this site. Anchor for the side of TTV, and she's been so consistent being able to hold her ground.
Well, the great chase is on. That's a full conga line coming through tree. To be fair, Aries put themselves in a really good spot to at least find a battleground to work with, but this position from topside balcony is going to have to be Aries Alamo.
Cover going out.
30 seconds left. I don't know if they'll expect Kaide in hell, and the expectation is there, just not quite able to pick up that kill. I like the idea, though, you know, for Airy in that situation, they don't really have much of a choice other than to go and look for some sort of engagement. Just TTV weren't willing to give them any info whatsoever, playing it so diligently in that 1v4.
Well, it's going to be the first true save round coming out for Hakikimori in round number 7, just Sheriffs of the Ghost. Again, a very expensive last couple of rounds for them, including the usage of ultimates, to where now the eco of the overall purchasability of TV is harder, but also the ultimate economy is going to start tilting in favor of the defense as we get a little bit deeper into this map. Arthur working on trying to rebuild up that Hunter's Fury, will catch a free orb, and that will be pretty much all that Hakikimori we're looking for here at B.
Not on me off this angle here to be able to get one. And the opening pick here to be found by TTV.
That shuts down rotation
again. Yeah.
Now you have to flood into the teeth of Heidi's setup. just playing in the backside of staircase. Yep, spy cam's going to be able to get a read. Hello, how are you? Help on the way now. Salvo just to try to delay. Good opportunity, but slight window missed by Kaidi. Still hanging out over towards the switch on Boathouse. And again, Hakikimori have to commit to this. There's no way they rotate out. Little check from Colby, plus the refract back just to confirm where this defensive setup is at B main.
We'll reposition here as well. Play a little bit of a high-low of sorts here with Leah at the very least.
Good follow from Area. They're also spamming the corner. They know Kaidi's playing close. Shock dart. I don't know how Kaidi has not taken more damage than they have. The dart covers. I'll say, Neo in the Matrix style. Not going to be able to dodge through that, though. Pinstripe kill feed. Irene will find the final elimination, though. And TV will win the expected round, but it comes at a bit of a cost there. A couple of decent eliminations for Hakikimori with just the Sheriff.
Made it, you know, at least a little bit expensive, but so far defense has been clean here from TTV. Sure, Hakikimori, they've got, it's 3-4, but I don't think that gives the full picture. You know, those 2 of those 3 rounds comes from the pistol and the anti-eco that follows afterwards, and that's why you're seeing the timeouts be called here. You know, Hakikimori, they're slowly trying to work their way across the map. I think a thorn in their side has been the fact that Kaide has been really good at switching up her setups, also swapping between B and A, and that slow kind of default approach coming out from Hakikimori has been, you know, looking for her setup, seeing if they can break that out early, take down some of those trips, and they just haven't really been successful in finding the mark with the shock darts coming out from Arthur.
No, it's a really good shout. On the other side of things, and I don't know about you, Ash, but I always find myself looking at the assist category when we've got a lot of utility in the mix, and Irene has been present on all these defensive holds. 7 assists through 8 rounds is not bad whatsoever. Leah as well has already found elimination with the salvo. A lot of delay coming from this kind of combining the salvo with the fault lines as well. So in terms of like the slaying presence, yeah, Inui, Kaidi, and Mizu have been unbelievable. A lot of them, a lot of their eliminations rather, I should say, have come by way of them kind of playing a bit of an island. But most importantly, Leah and Irene have also been all over the map. So if you're coming off this timeout for Hakikimori, your first full gun round was that cheeky little idea of trying to play a bit of a fake with the Null Command Hunter's Fury. That didn't work. So now you got to really show us what exactly your default setup on offense is going to look like and what your identity on this map from the attacking half is going to try to favor.
Absolutely. Right now, I think it's just difficult. TTV feels like Kaide setups have been impenetrable, and then the trap plays that we've been talking about the potential of have been also frustrating to deal with, because if they're running down the clock as well, that post point denial, and not quite the angle that you're looking for there for Arthur.
Yeah.
It's a lot
There's
of
been a
information.
couple, a couple of those moments, Ash, where we've just seen these 1v1s just flat on out who can hit the shots, and it's about to say Hakikimori have found themselves on the receiving end of a lot of that. This time they're able to find elimination at long side of mid, so 4v4 and a chance to possibly do some damage here on attack through tree. Problem is Armageddon is at the ready here for the defense. That is exactly what comes through just as soon as the hit was about to come out.
Hey, I mean, at least you're getting it out early enough where a pivot's still possible, but a massive pick here. Take down Kaide.
Playing in a corner, reads the flash.
Oh, no, please.
Hello? Finally, the shot lands,
Stop.
and that's a little bit more like it if you're Irene. Runs out of ammunition for the final kill, but Mizu is there in place. Wow, that was about as polar opposite of gunfights as you could have imagined. Irene whiffing on the opener and then still coming away with 3.
Everything was going so wrong, and then it was like, we are so back during that round. That was an experience to be had for sure. Man, I mean, it was a great flash at the very least. Colby couldn't fight back in that moment, but that was a little too close for comfort. Right now, again, it's back up to Hakikimori off the back of their timeout. Still not able to find any success here on the attacking side. These mid plays haven't garnered much for them. They haven't even really been able to break that trip half the time,
No.
I feel like.
No, they really haven't. This time, just some forward presence going to be established through mid, and Arthur actually finds one on a bit of a peek over towards A. Wait, this is all falling apart. A couple individual 1v1s going the way of the offense. So we have a 3v5 situation. Irene, knowing that Arthur's stuck over towards the corner here at A main, trying to play off of it. Has the aftershock available if they want to, but a dark cover comes out and Arthur will get some separation, and then the pinch coming out from Colby. Again, isolated pick leading to weapon upgrades.
So nicely done there. Aware of the fact that Colby had all that space, they could go for that pinch, but I like this double walkout coming out from Leah and Ennui. Should be able to catch one out if they don't have their knives. Not looking anyways. It's all good. All good.
You get one back here. But the plant is in, and trying to reclaim this is going to be very difficult to do. There's the blockage of A-Man. You have to find these elims on the point quickly, but Colby able to find one, see the other, and it's a thrifty for Hakikimori. It's not the way you draw it up, but you take it, as you're now just down one with the eco swapping back into your favor.
Okay. Not the round that we would have expected to see them glean after the back of that timeout, but you know what? It's a game changer sheriff moment at that too. Wouldn't be an iconic start to the Swiss stage here for stage 1 if we didn't have one of those on our first matchup of the day, first map at that. At least keeping it neck and neck for now. But again, it's all about these gun rounds, it feels like, for Hakikimori to actually really make that break back through into this matchup. Now again, that scoreline doesn't quite tell the whole story here.
Well, start to see, Ash, this level of aggression. Careful. Through mid, after we kind of already called that these traps had not really been tested. Now, traps have moved, to be fair, but this presence through mid starting to become pretty significant. And the rotation's over. Do you expect Colby in the corner? You don't, but you still find the elim, and now you've got the neural depth to get a lay of the land in terms of where exactly this offense is set up at.
Great info here as well. Nice trap. Delaying with that paranoia, and now they can play off the trip that's laying here in 3.
And this whole play has just been completely stalled out. Salvo in the corner. Yep, catches Airy on the teleport out. They know Angel's stuck in the corner as well.
One enemy remaining.
And that will work.
Spike
Yeah, great isolation here from the defense. And outside of a thrifty, the pistol and the anti-eco, I mean, really, TV's defense has been resound.
Oh, absolutely. I think the major juxtaposition between these two squads here, Shift, is the fact that for TTV, it feels like anytime we see them going for those engagements, it's measured, they're playing together. There's a lot of like synergy with the combinations of util that's coming out as well, whether it's the fault line with the salvos or the paranoia. Just so many iterations of that versus a Hakikimori where it feels like the rounds that they are winning, for the most part, have really relied on those singular pop-off moments from one player.
Sure. Very fair point, but as we get into the last 2 rounds of this half, sense of urgency starts to come out here for the side of Hakikimori, and they're going to spend the Killjoy ult immediately. Shizu just trying to hang for as long as humanly possible. It's actually really good timing to try to hold off this play, but Detain still comes through into 2 different players. Now, there is still Anui in the backside of the site. She's fine. Hanging out, no problem. Finding first blood. Good. On the fault line to come back through, and Anui's not missing. The refract has taken Hakikimori all the way outside of the point, so that is absolutely perfect in terms of how you set up your defense.
Just incredible utility coming out from Irene so consistently to set this duelist up for success. We still do have the spike in play with 45 seconds on the clock. There's plenty of time to offer a rotation, to take a moment and take a breather. But the thing is, it's such a comfortable 5-stack. I don't think Hakikimori are gonna, realize that they're gonna be walking into the lion's den, but you've got Kaide set up on the entire rest of the map. They'll know if it's a rotation
30
or not.
seconds left.
And with the time ticking away and all this noise being created, TV is going to be 1,000,000% confident that this is going to be where the hit comes from. I mean, I was about to say, the only other option here with the pockets running a little bit thin is just to save this out and not even bother trying to attempt. Give yourself a shot at a 5th round and in the
10 seconds left.
last of the half, and that looks like that's what's going to happen. So, a lot of noise for nothing, but the Rolling Thunder from Irene, perfectly timed, and I think there's a level of like, hey, I'm going to get myself detained so we can bait for Anui, just let them run and just get slaughtered.
Yeah, that's the thing. You see 2 players, you're not going to expect that the one player is still going to be, overstaying their welcome inside of hell in that little pocket that gets left open. And you're talking about how important that save is with the 3 ultimates that we have on the side of Hakikimori. even scaling up to that Waylay ult to come through here as well, which I can expect they'll be gunning for in B main. It's going to be their best shot at taking it to 5.
See what we get. I don't imagine we're going to have the same null command bait this time. That much is for sure. Knife looking to get themselves set up a little bit on the aggressive side. Flash behind this as well. So this looks like it wants some sort of a quick hit. Knives are available for doing. Instantly have popped that. The idea of trying to get the Waylay over the top of the boathouse is not as clean as you'd like. And it's just a teleport for Ari to get into the backside at B. So Hakikimori are in, but it's not comfortable yet that the defense has had time to rotate over.
That they have. There hasn't been any pressure on the other side of the map. Plant to be secured. No command at the very least to deny some util going into the retake.
That's exactly the case. Null command, Hunter's Fury, trying to delay this retake as long as humanly possible. Leah just gets a peek, finds one, finds more than that. Are you kidding me? Leah for 3. Shuts down Angel inside the null command, not in a position to be brought back. So it's just down to see in the back, and Colby in the corner. No one ever looked at B main. A retake that was starting to grow some legs and get some room to work with, shut down as the corners are just not checked, and we got a 7-5 half.
That tough looks, I mean, great on Hakikimori, but it, normally you would expect, the B main re-clear to come through, but as we focus into this pistol, we already saw, the potential for setups on the side of TTV. We saw great utility coming out from Leah, a lot of that zoning clearance from the salvos, and then you got Irene with the flashes, the stuns. You can expect great things, I think, with that dynamic duo between Irene and Ennui for setting up a lot of those initial engagements here. So we take a look at a heavy mid presence on the side of TTV.
Yeah, the setup I think is going to be very telegraphed to what the Hakikimori are going to want to do based on their Killjoy positioning in particular. So here we go. Fault line flash. Are we trying to get into tree? Will find success doing so and actually break glass as well. The defense at a bit of a panic, try to rotate over and look at this firing squad that's stacked up at mid-map in case anyone peeks. And are we actually just going to step a little bit deeper? Trust in the 1v1 ability and comes away with first blood. Sia at mid though, fighting back, and all things told after the opening engagements, it's a 3v2 in favor of the defense.
Not having Spike in hand either. A little high-low even towards mid. It's going to be hard to group up with Kaede and making it impossible now. 30 seconds on the clock. On me can really only hope to get this 1v1 engagement, but knife out. Not going to come out on top in that one.
That is a strong stand though from Sia. Hanging out on the rotation, just trying to see if anything's lurking over towards mid-market, and you come away with 3 eliminations. 4 in total on the round after the final one goes their way, but still impressive to say the least, because Ennui just sneaking through tree and finding one inside of A was nearly round winning, but not to be. The rest of the team can't get there. Now we're just down 1 with Hakikimori back into the supremacy, into the Seiko with 3 Guardians, a Marshal, and a Stinger. Look at the long-range gunfights here.
You see them kind of grouping up set plays to maintain the safe control. Very least might leave 1 or 2 presences on that lurk, and it's actually not going to be the case whatsoever. Maybe Mizu sticks around and instead looking to regroup. Drone should be able to spot out Kaede here. We'll do steady default hold here from Hakikimori. At the very least, with Mizu on the other side of the map, they will have the opportunity to revisit if they need to, because then, at least they have the information, but...
Oh, this timing could not be better for Hakikimori. The Guardian on one angle, the Stinger on the other. Everyone is trapped. Kaede trying to hang in the corner on the orb, but there's no such thing as hanging. And, yep, a little bit of bloodlust in the mix as a flawless round gets tallied, and we're tied at 7 through 14.
What is that? I think both pistol rounds now picked up by Hakikimori. They've had, strong starts to each half. But again, the gun rounds is where TTV have come alive. I think we've seen some really cool ideas from both sides as well. Like in that pistol, we had that lurk smoke over towards tree that even allowed Ennui to walk out onto site there. And from Hakikimori, looking a little bit more drilled almost, I feel like, on defense with how they're setting up to look to play together, a little bit more of that coordination than what we were seeing on the attacking side.
Stealth drone will work its way into B. Does it connect, find the info? May not. Colby, this is the opening shot, refracts back to safety. Meanwhile, backside of the staircase, Arthur holds on nicely. These two working at a bit of an angle with Leah. That will do well, but Arthur finding a second before dropping is kind of everything here for the defense. Gives them a chance at the 3v3.
Oh, it absolutely does. You've got 2 Guardians on the hands of Hakikimori as well. Kaide having already received a little bit of that chip damage. Side of TTV for any of that stall right now. They're just waiting on the refresh from that fault line.
No, the other issue is they spend the paranoia just across the staircase, and they can just re-step back up. Trying to predict. Yeah, that works. Little one tap. No trade imminent as Colby's a little bit too late to the party. And this may just be Hakikimori playing for the exit eliminations at this point. Yeah, no chance to get back onto the defuse. So, an expensive round here, but Colby able to punish a couple. Last shot from Avery also will land for the round. And all the eliminations will still be tallied for TTV.
I'm honestly a little bit surprised even that Hakiki didn't even try to go for that retake. You know, they had weapons to do so. Instead, guaranteeing, of course, that they would be able to deny any of those being carried over from the side of TTV is strat in and of itself to be quite fair. But on that round felt quite winnable for them at the same time. So I think I am a little bit surprised, but regardless, a really great bonus to come through. TTV have nothing to work with here into this next attacking round. All 5 players grouped up.
Oh, I was about to say that opening. I don't know if you anticipate that if you're TV and you're thinking, well, first blood, let's go, let's run. Nope, not so fast. As Angel and the rest of the Hakikimori defense is in position to make sure there's no follow-up. And just down to Irene, able to tag at range. Well, that's annoying. You see the dink and you're like, wow, God's greatest gift to Valorant. Nope, too far.
Still working? Double check.
Leaves it at 5 HP, and Hakikimori cleaned things up to get us back to level.
Neck and neck between these two squads. And that's TV to call the next time out. Hakiki, they took one during the first half. TV want to ensure that this next round is as clean as possible. Otherwise, it'll be the chance for Hakikimori to take that lead back here. You've got quite a few ults also cycling up, I think, on the side of Hakikimori.
Yeah.
Already have that Hunter's Fury that could be used to deny one of those choke points, especially over towards those mains. It's such a great angle to throw out that Sova ultimate. Hope that you at least catch a little bit of chip damage, if not even being able to, fully take some of those players down. Curious to see what the approach is going to be like for TTV. It's been pretty aggressive for the most part, and a lot of that has to do with, I think, some of the ways that Colby's kit can be unforgivable on that waylay.
Yeah. The other side of this too, I think you'd be talking about if you're TV, like, let's actually dictate manipulation of space. I mean, we have the perfect agents to do that on Execute. Fault line on one side, Paranoia on the other, Salvo deeper. Like, there are ways to allow some pretty free space to come through, and you can take the opening engagements on your terms. We really haven't seen that, though. Outside of maybe one point of contact that you don't expect as a gunfight going the way of TV, they haven't really been able to get their setups to execute maybe the way that you would assume that you would see based on the agents that we're seeing. So there's a level of, let's just make sure we get our heads on straight here. Play our comp the way it leads to certain strengths. And so far, so good. I mean, Stealth Drone is going to get some space for an UE to play up through mid. You also had a spy cam from Kaide over the top of B main. So, I mean, good intel gather now just comes again to knowing that you've got the right setup. Let's execute on it and get a good look at some sort of a hit. Nope, not this time.
Such a great ebb and flow, Hakikimori. They know that they drone them off the angle and B main. Speaking of angles.
Back in a flash.
Okay, and we're going up. Close. Personal. Hold on.
Okay.
What happened to our
heat
player
check?
advantage?
Follow up good. Hold on a second. What looked to be kind of a run him down after the first two eliminations come through ends up being a 2v2 with a rather vulnerable A site. Now you've got a flash, you've got a knife, you've got a fragment, and you have the paranoia for Airy. Salvo on the other side to block off Heaven while the spike gets planted. And that knife doesn't actually connect onto anything. So now you got to be thinking that this post plant is deeper in the site, and that's exactly where the utility is going to be sent towards.
So how the flash coming out.
One enemy remaining. Last player standing.
It is finished.
It's a clean post plant. Honestly, you kind of feel like Hakikimori kind of let that round slip out of their fingers with the advantage that they're able to find themselves out on the defense. And that's a lot to take away from TV being able to pick this round up, especially with Mizu being able to take down Colby. But that was, Colby really did not need to dash up there. Didn't quite get the shorty out in time. It was just completely unnecessary. You know, you get your one, you've got an outlaw in hand, there isn't really anyone to back you up. A massive risk that didn't need to be taken.
Yeah, it definitely feels like one of those moments you label as breakdown. A little bit too aggressive. Angel, okay. Different look here after the stealth drone was sent out the exact same way it had in the prior round. Just a little bit of a jump peek just to see if there's actually any pressure behind this. And you'll take that cost of essentially just a single bullet connecting for that information. And Hakikimori are actually going to scale a little bit deeper in towards B main, and that's going to allow some really clean, at least setups for Hakikimori to get an understanding that this is likely some sort of an A hit.
Yeah, they hear the drone for the scouting outside the tree here as well. Nobody on site. They're expecting the Armageddon to be coming through. It's an easy take here for the side of TTV, right? But you also look at the fact that the lockdown is ready and available, already to be thrown down here by Sia.
Oh, they're going to chow it. Paranoia comes through. Dark cover's also there.
Not the
Yep. They're able to at least deny it, but it comes at a cost. Hakikimori holding over towards Tree with a number of members. Will find a couple of kills, and Sia's going to follow up for more. And how about it? Wow, 4 for Sia. And Hakikimori is going to get us tied at 9. An expensive round for TV.
That is actually insane. Just completely holding her ground with that lockdown coming in. And even though they're able to take it out on the side of TV, all of the players, the entire cavalry, you know, they rush over towards Tree to provide that kind of backup. TV didn't have anywhere to go. Not how you would have necessarily thought that round to go, but man, Sia also started off having a bit of a quieter game here, Shift. Like in that first half was being taken down on that flank, and she's really heated up here now into the remainder of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it really starts in the pistol round too, doesn't it? Just that little retraction back over the kind of a lurk from B to A, checking at mid, finding 4 eliminations in that round. 4 kills in this one as well, as TV may try to just throw caution in the wind here. Leah, once again, same stealth drone, knives at the ready, trying to maybe possibly play through this. But do you expect that Airy is holding with an Odin on the long corner across at market? At the moment, though, holding for utility. Paranoia comes through. Colby finds the first. Knew he's stuck in the corner. Refraction back, and that is just perfect bait and switch for Hakikimori, looking clean on the mid defense.
Looking so drilled on defense with a lot of that protocoling coming out from Hakikimori. Haide, again, she's been lurking consistently towards this B side. Hasn't found much success with it. Continues to struggle to be that lurking presence. This round has kind of been a lot of CCD walking in by themselves on the eco to grant themselves a flawless round here for Hakiki.
And it's been really, really clear cut in terms of what Hakikimori are setting themselves up for off of a default, and then what protocols they have in place in terms of how and why and when they would need to rotate, if at all. I mean, this mid play that we've seen from TV with Leah tossing in the stealth drone just to kind of get things scouted out. Initially, you think, okay, this is a good opportunity to get someone deeper into mid, but the rotation protocol from Hakikimori has been really solid. And now they're starting to build their stack up knowing that no one's been playing through B main at all. We can just keep someone in towards mid market. And if we feel trouble, then we can just double chow something out. And it's worked out absolutely flawlessly to the point where Sia and Arthur are both sitting at 17 kills. And Colby, who's been a part of that kind of flex rotation defensively, has benefited in a couple of moments as well, mostly being served as a little bit of bait and switch, which you actually kind of love to see from the third-party perspective of what Waylay's strengths look like.
Yeah, I think that Waylay is just one of those An interesting duelist that just fares so well on defense, especially from, we've seen kind of iterations of the Waylay being played in a similar manner from other teams, whether it's in tier 2 or tier 1. And it's a lot of that, okay, let's go for some of that early control, put a little bit of pressure, but then the fact that you have that recall to get back, it is massive as far as just being able to apply that and then get out scot-free, which is something Hakikimori are just implementing so nicely on this squad. I just want to see a little bit more dynamicism, I think, on the side of TV with a lot of their setups. It seems like we're seeing a lot of similar set plays coming out from them with that A main control. A lot of util that's even being used just to secure A main in and of itself.
Yeah.
But it not really having too much variation in how they're looking towards their approach to the attack.
I think a lot of it is it never gets properly set up at the front doors when you're trying to actually execute. And some of that is to credit to Hakikimori, who have done a couple of rounds where, like this, they get through A main. So, like, you know where the hit's going to come from. You also know that a Rolling Thunder's at the ready. So as soon as you don't see anything towards A initially, you just back up. And this Rolling Thunder, yes, it allows Inui to get in, but still, the defense is fine with this. You've got mid-map control. You've got the ability to throw in a convergent paths as a retake tool if you can find an opportunity to kind of over-isolate onto one side of the site or the other. So there are resources here for Hakikimori to still find a way to get a 5v5 retake.
Well, there absolutely are. Nice util on both sides, though. They have retake utility, like you were saying, on the side of Hakikimori, but also good responses. Irene has 2 flashes. You've got the paranoia as well, but this zone, the whole half of the site has to come out on the left, too.
Really good step back from Inui. Finds Sia, and then more behind that. Shock dart in the corner, not going to be enough to stop Inui from locking things down on the staircase. Fault line comes through as well to slow down the rest of this defensive retake, which largely has to just hold in its spot. And by hold, I mean fall, because there is just nowhere to go. Spam shot to the boathouse also connecting. Colby is stuck. And after initially the paths looked like it was going to just open up a space through sidewalk, TTV just step up and say not so fast, find a couple eliminations, and just do not allow Hakikimori to ever see the site again.
No, a lovely adjustment coming out from TTV. We're seeing them playing a bit more off their utility as a squad there into that post plant. Even in a lot of these rounds, it isn't even coming down to that post plant potential. It seems like TTV have a solid idea of how they want to handle the rest of the round as long as they can get that spike initiated. But it comes down to even getting into that position as well. This is something that we're going to need to see them replicate throughout the remainder of this half if TV want to run away with Ascent.
Agreed. Different look here as an owl drone's going to be sent early for Hakikimori. Not going to wait for the stealth drone to come through this time. So that allows Arthur to step up just a touch. Does get revealed, but it's again baited out so the operator can connect. First blood comes through. It's a pivotal one. Leah drops early, 5v4.
They've drawn out a lot of util, though, over towards this A site. But even with this heavy presence, again, it's that ebb and flow from Hakikimori. It's wherever they're showing that heavy presence, Hakiki will push forward on the other side of the map. But look at this walk up. They're prepared for it, though. Colby's still watching towards mid.
Whoa. So I was going to say, just so many footsteps being heard. But again, that's enough to bait the peak right into the waiting arms of the operator. Spike does get planted. Odin a part of the picture, but a great flash to recontrol heaven. Irene getting to work, spamming things down, but completely hindered up. Angel will connect this time, and it's on to Inui, just playing in the bottom side of hell. Here it comes, the full flood and the full pressure, and not even needing a peek as Zeri just spams it down. Hakikimori, good for 11.
Such nice looks here from them on the defense. Again, this is the map where we talked about it would be important for TV to actually pick up their pick here on Ascent if Hakikimori managed to take this one. That's an upset here when it comes down to those picks and bans, and right now, Hakikimori, they have just such a great identity, I think, on that defense. We're seeing those trap plays coming through, and then again, it's that push forward where they look to seek a bit of that information, catch out a lurker if there is one as well. And TV, even though they are trying to, kind of bob and weave across the map, go for some of those defaults, even some of those fakes into rotations. this isn't working out because Hakiki are so good at re-clearing space after this initial util gets thrown down.
Well, this is a critical round here, Ash. We're getting essentially a full purchase to avoid a 12-10 count, but you lose this round if you're TV. Your chances at trying to save the map are left only to limited purchase and what would have to be an overtime run. So a lot of pressure on making sure that whatever this execute is going to be flawless. And there's no more nonsense at mid here. No more fooling and trying to throw utility to A. This is just a 5-man stack, and Colby is in position waiting.
Washington.
Oh. That's one that you're going to want back. The hinder comes through, and Colby whips another one. Oh, not like this. Sia tries to back out of sight. Oh, and does not expect that Mizu had already teleported all the way deep towards Arches. So TV will get a clean execute and take of the B site. And honestly speaking, if you're Hakikimori, your chances at this retake are slim, especially as the paranoia misses. Follow-up from Leah is good for a 1-for-1. And I just don't know how you crack this with an Odin in hand. This is going to be so difficult to do, and there's no way you make your way through Sidewalk. Angel will be forced out into the open, and that is a near flawless round for TV after a couple of rare whiffs come through for Colby.
That's a gorgeous round coming out from TV. And I think a big part of that and why it worked out was actually because they weren't telegraphing those hits. Something that you had talked about earlier on during this matchup is that TV, when it comes down to, you know, that utility, that 1-2 punch that they're trying to throw in, a lot of it often being expended just to take control of that main choke, not even sight off the gate in these rounds. It just gives that information to Hakiki, and they look to, you know, play their ebb and flow based off of it. But that contact play is what kept Hakikimori kind of guessing as to where that lean was on the side of TV.
Well, we've got a deep defensive knife that's going to allow Hakikimori to try to walk up over towards A long, but will they anticipate that there is a 2-2 split here over at A? May not matter. Colby finds one. Leah, this would be bold to try to challenge this. Does see the dash away. Angel just playing a bit of a shoulder with the Sheriff. And Leah somehow is connected. Hold on a second. This isn't over yet, but Hakikimori find 2 through A main, and Erie will follow up with the third over towards Tree, leaving Kaidi as the last one left. And at 12 HP and Arthur in their way, it'll be a very quick 12th round confirmed for Hakikimori.
Map point here for Hakikimori on TV's map pick. Their defense has been a clinic. We've seen glimmers of brilliance from TV and looking to try and break some of these setups. Right now you're looking even at these ultimate economy here. 2 big ults, nearly 4. 2 or 1 away from being online here on the side of Hakikimori. For TV right now, we've really only got that Armageddon to rely on here in Leia's hands.
Yeah. Well, you could see it. Inui is playing for an orb. Doesn't even need it, though. Reveal coming through. Angel feeling the pressure. Has the fragment out. You've also got the convergent paths for Colby. Sprinting forward, finding one, but the Armageddon cuts through perfectly. And overall, it's TV who come away favorably on the trades. Arthur still in sight. Sia working on a long route, but now has to cut it short as the cross into sight will be confirmed with the door shutting on this play through Tree.
1v3. Screaming like an overtime potential here. Got 3 players looking at you as well. It's just not going to happen there for Sia. We're going the distance here on our first matchup of today.
Welcome to Game Changers. Hold on to your horses, buckle up. We may be in for one heck of a stage. First map here in the Swiss feature will go overtime. And I will say, just kind of has this, you see it on the timeline. The last handful have been back and forth, but even throughout the first 12 rounds, we had this little bit of a 2 here, 2 there type situation for rounds confirmed. As Hakikimori were off to a swell start defensively. TV started to kind of figure it out there in the last handful, but now we go back to where we started with TV on the defense and Hakikimori trying to keep producing what they had in the first half, which was largely just full heavy-handed hits, especially towards B.
Yeah, it really is going to be a question, I think, of who can find that comfort on the attacking side for both of these teams here in overtime.
Oh, good
Stop.
dash, good refract. Colby is out of there. That is... Welcome to Waylay.
The left
And-
side, please.
Oh no, Lee is so heavy focused on the play through arch, they don't realize that Angel had gotten already past the archway. Follow-up was nearly perfect for Erdui, but not quite, as Hakikimori will out-trade through B and get a plant on the site.
Man, Colby's just been so difficult to deal with on that Waylay, again, continuously being that tip of the spear. And it feels like everyone kind of just gets locked in on the Waylay. They say, okay, we've dashed back, not expecting someone else to have walked up to take some of that space. And Mizu, in what seems like an impossible 1v4 situation, is not going to be able to do too much with Colby coming in on that backstab. And that might just be the round they needed on the side of Hakikimori.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. I mean, it is one of those things, like, Waylay is very shiny, very flashy, very colorful. It's hard to take your eyes off of it, especially with that huge dash in. And it looks like we will have a tech pause here to kind of discuss. Okay, I mean, this has been an awesome series. Like, if you've never watched Game Changers before, and this is your first introduction, I know there's a lot of fandom kind of surrounding this TV squad, but this has been a really competitive game. And I'll be the first one to admit that I kind of have to eat my shoe here, because you and I, Ash, we were talking about it in terms of, you know, expanding the overall pool of teams into this stage. We expected that there's going to be kind of a wide gap, and we even said that in the pre-show, talking about some of where the top teams historically have been in North American Game Changers. I'm loving what I'm seeing for both of these two squads. Yes, there's a couple of, you know, mishaps, I think, for TV on offense. They really haven't shown us a true good old-fashioned execute on the offensive side, but there have been really solid looks. The individual gun skill has been impressive on both sides. I'm really loving what I'm seeing for both these two teams.
Oh, absolutely. I think that it also says a lot considering, you know, how new some of these players are to competition as well, and just seeing like the level of combinations and coordination that is coming out from them, even just the calling in general and the communication on these maps has been really nice so far. Man.
We'll see. As the opening knife defensively kind of holds back the approach. Stealth drone to counter. This is very typical for what we've seen through TV's offenses, but it does get deleted by Arthur, and the defense is happy to take a little bit extra space through A.
Yeah, just looking to walk up right now. I've got a one way to deal with over towards me.
Spam not really going to work out this time for the defense of Hakikimori, but they still hold control at A main, plus a wrap from Arthur. Hearing the glass break, that will keep their attention forward. Meanwhile, Island play towards B doesn't develop into too much, and ooh, that knife actually connecting onto Inui is actually going to make this defense still feel like there could be a hit here at A, and this is going to put tons of pressure on Sia to try to hold on the island.
They know at this point, though, look at the forward positioning that Aerie has over towards A main. They know it has to either be mid and should be a contact play over towards B. You hear that ult orb being taken here by Leah as well.
30 seconds left. Shot dart.
Now, Arthur tosses in the shock dart, just seeing what kind of chip damage is going to be confirmed. There's the salvo to push him off the angle. Late dart cover being sent on the defense to, again, try to keep Sia as planted as possible. Owl drone with her. Sia has actually avoided the paranoia. Is there a chance you can stop the spike from going down here? Just comes down to what the contact looks like. Sia for two doesn't stop the spike. Can you find anything more? No, not quite. But is it enough? 2v2. Down to the 2v1. Just up to Colby. One dash available. First shoulder peek gets punished. And Colby says, I'm not interested. Tries to go the other direction. Where Enui will find her, find the kill, and tie us back up again.
Great lurk information being garnered there by Kaide on the other side of the map, allowing for that pivot over towards B to happen. And Hakiki were really sold on that A mid hit, despite the fact that they had control of A main. We're kind of just expecting TTV to try and kind of barrel down into tree and take that A site. Now, a timeout to be called. Each of these teams only have one in overtime. TV to be using theirs up early on. And man, for Hakikimori, we've seen a lot of those heavy mid plays, a lot of Colby kind of going in, someone else taking that space back, and baiting out TV, and I want to see a little bit more diligence here now in overtime shift. TV,
Sure,
they got to
sure.
be checking those corners. There have been a lot of moments where it seems like they're kind of just walking up and forgetting, okay, yeah, someone could be occupying this space. Like, we don't quite have that information. And on your map pick, where you're expecting to be a little bit more comfortable, I want to see that adjustment being made here late in the game.
Yeah, just like no blackouts, no overheats. Like, you're absolutely right. The word discipline is the appropriate one to be sure. Wow, what an affair we've had. This could, we say this all the time, this could technically go on forever, this game of Valorant. And I might be happy to have that. Especially with the drama that we've had. I mean, everyone's playing well. I love that. We love that for an opener. But you're absolutely right. Looking at this from TV's perspective, if we're going to try to play aggressive on the defense, we have to make sure that we can get the ground safely and hold it more convincingly, as offenses have found some convincing success here in the last handful of opportunities for both teams. Check through mid. This based on the recon dart and the knife that will allow Colby a chance if they want to again play up, but Inui inside the dark cover. No, not feeling frisky enough to give much of a check to that, and instead now we got to back up and make sure that mid stays safe.
Oh, look at this walk up here. Area's waiting for it.
Cover going out.
Gonna miss the timing.
There's the follow-up check, and it's just a 1-for-1. It's not bad news, though, overall for Hakikimori, who are still focused on playing through mid, and the dark cover will allow Colby to pass. Spycam sees this, though. How do you play this if you're Inui? Still hanging at mid. You know that there's a contested through market. Kaide's in trouble, tries to back away, but information for Leah to follow up on. Can't quite lock down the shots for the second. Now here comes the pinch. Perfect timing for Inui, but cannot confirm onto Colby, who's already dashed into sight. Can still hold on this cross, though, knowing that Arthur's still playing on a corner. Recon dart will hit. Follow-up from Colby is perfect, and now it's just down to Irene for the 1v2.
Solo B.
2 flashes.
First. A bit of anti-flash spot being played. 15 seconds on the clock here. Keep that in mind as well. There's a second flash, and Colby had beat the timing for it, but still cannot get the gun up in time. Irene will convert the 1v2, and TV break up our all-offensive affair in the last 3 rounds.
Great Rebel clutch here from Irene into that overtime. Perfect utility to be thrown out as well. And quite the hold on the side of TV. It was a close affair, though, into that round, and now it's going to rely on the attack to look good here. And the side that's been a little bit more dicey for either team, a bit more of a coin flip in that regard. Got, again, this lurk setup. Kaide, early salvos to try and push Hakiki off that space. See if they can force any of that initiator util out a little bit earlier.
There are some very important islands being played right now. That initial salvo had Kaide deep into B main, but Aldrin will push that off. Colby trying to push through the dark cover as it dissipates. Punish for it. And now a numbers advantage, leading to a full sprint towards B. Sia dealt with by the aftershock. Angel affected by the paranoia, but still hanging on to the defensive cross. Has to go big, and a stray shot lands on the forehead, leaving it all down to Airy. 1v4, also likely going to require a defuse of the spike.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, full kit available at the very least, but there's no way TV are going to let this one slip away. And if they do, major mistakes will have to have been made here, Shiv.
Oh, yeah. This first step might be the most difficult here for Airy. It's the first. Sees information in the Kaide a little bit deeper into the site. But where is the rest of this post-plant defense? Dark cover out towards main. Spy cam deleted, but the swing is there. Irene will have the final word as TV find a way to battle back after what looked like Hakikimori were doing more than enough, especially on that second half. It gets to a back and forth all offensive affair, but the mad dash to B working out for TV in the end.
I think that's nice. I feel like on the attacking side for TV, what worked really well for them was just whenever they were changing up that tempo, you know, I think Hakikimori got a really good read on the default they initially started out with, but when they were going for those rounds where they were cutting noise, when they were shifting from that default into a really fast hit a little bit earlier in the round than they expected, that's when they were able to catch Hakikimori off guard.
Really fun first map, friends. Welcome to Valorant Game Changers and our Swiss stage. That's just map number 1. TV taking their own map selection. Now they're going to bounce back onto Lotus, which should be a compelling one, depending on what agents we get for that one. Don't go far. You're watching Valorant Game Changers North America. We'll be right back.
Oof, stuck paying for that old phone? Don't be. You know, at Verizon, we'll pay off your phone. And you'll get iPhone 16 on us. That's a value of up to $1,600, only on Verizon.
It's for you. Do you like it? Come on, Charlie, use your new door. Come on, let's go. I said go. Let's go. Silly dog. I'm gonna trade you for a cat.
Red Bull gives you wings.
The new Red Bull Zero is here. 100% wings with monk fruit extract.